It's not surprising to see a community jump the gun when a character releases, but when it does, everyone wants to start a rerun banner. We're going to dive into 5 characters that received one of the worst first impressions in Genshin Impact. Starting with Kazuha, the golden boy of Inazuma who has the most screen time of any Zuma character, including the Archon herself. To have his own events to being the right hand man of the protagonist in the main story, where his character arc has a proper ending. That's how he is known now, but in his debut things were as it once was. Back in June 29th, 2021 was when Kazuha made his first debut in Genshin. It was the first Inazuma character to be released, and the impression of his release was quite dreadful. His difference in banner revenue is very different between when he first debuted compared to his rerun, which is an 87 increase when his rerun banner happened a year later along with Klee. In his release, he was nicknamed as a 5-star Zerkros, a slight upgrade from a 4-star character. I get that people are frustrated about how we still only have one Anemo character, but it's really weird to me that a lot of the people in the community are already bashing Kazuha and writing him off as a weak and trapped banner and undeserving of a 5-star status. Many factors made people questioning whether to pull him, like for example, his main DPS potential was locked into Constellation 6, something that can only be achieved with the hoarding a lot of Primal Gems. His Ascension materials locked into a limited summer event at the time, and the fact that people were wary that Ayaka was released around the corner, a character that's been revealed since Genshin Impact's first closed beta in 2019. It was not until the last few days of his banner where people started to learn his viability in team comps. Players who did pull for him back then are now finishing up farming essential materials from the event for Kazuha to see he was truly different from what Venti and Circles can't provide, a quick swap Anemo character that can also buff other party members to do more damage. People began to realize this when it was already too late after his banner ended. To this day, he remains the top usage character of Spiral Abyss and one of the recommended characters for exploration. Quick to judge at his release, it was a bit different to Kuki Shinobi's situation. In June 21, 2022, Kuki release was already leading to be an underwhelming release. After disappointments, performance of 4-star characters released following Toma and Hizo, many assumed the same for Kuki Shinobi, which met those expectations. Her kit surrounds her healing but at the cost of using her HP, which feels redundant when you can use other healers that can heal the same, if not better. This all changed through with the release of Dendro. On August 24, 2022, Hoyoverse would release the 7th element alongside the Sumeru region. This element buffed Hydro, Pyro, and Electro thanks to the elemental reaction system. Due to this addition, many characters in the game got buffed, including Kuki Shinobi. This granted Kuki to be more flexible, especially Hybrid Bloom T where she shines. A strong reaction between Hydro, Electro, and Dendro, having a combination of 3 elements, which is crucial and rotations need to be done widely to get it working. She was able to fill in 2 roles of healing and dealing electro reaction, which gives her more purpose than any other characters. Thanks to this, Kuki Shinobi is seen in more usages compared to before, but against the Archon herself, she still has a long way to go. Raiden Shogun is perhaps the most controversial when it comes to the constellation system in the game. To get a constellation, it requires pulling the same dupe of the character, and with Raiden Shogun, it was discussed back then in her debut whether it was necessary to make her strong. In her debut, many people called Shogun trash and weak when she was in the state of no constellation, where most casual and free-to players would have. Many people are quick to judge that she isn't as strong as Zhongli or Venti, and the weakest Archon of the 3 at the time. As regarding gameplay, people were also making fun of her design. A couple of days ago had passed since Raiden's model leaked, and there's still so many copium posts with most subjective complaints. For example, I saw many "she looks like NPC" comments. This isn't true, and this is a huge exaggeration. She looks just as good as any other character so far, especially Archons. However, over time, many people have come to agree she is the most flexible characters in the game, allowing her to be in the majority of team comps, even seeing more uses than Venti nowadays. Despite the questionable system of constellations, people were more wary of questioning of Kokomi's character. Kokomi is the character with the most undeserved hate in her debut. She made an appearance in the Inazuma Archon story, however part of the story was quickly rushed. Her introduction was so good it made me want to pull for her just for her lore. She was painted as this mastermind that wanted to help us and the people of Inazuma. If she was so involved with the resistance, how could she not see that her people were accepting things from the Fatui? She was then not shown again until she was sent her army to certain death by letting them attack Raiden Shogun. This could have at least made her go against Raiden Shogun herself instead of Kazuha. so she could at least have one little moment in the story. With all the questionable things that Hoyoverse done with Kokomi's character in the story, she also had a questionable kit at her release. She had a passive that made her crit rate and crit damage to negative 100%. Not a single character has this gimmick to this day. The nerf to this means that you can never crit with her unless you have a highly invested artifact to negate the negative crit effect. This made people simply not want to pull her. With the horrible ending of her character arc and questionable kit, Kokomi's first debuted as one of the worst performing revenue-wise of new character. The community simply no longer liked her, especially the Chinese community. Kokomi has been dubbed as one of the worst 5-star releases in Genshin Impact so far, and the player base is not all happy about with her kit. And to show their disappointment, some members of the community slid into her chat during a livestream just to hold her accountable for how Kokomi turned out in Genshin Impact. She had to restrict her chat from commenters from her livestream to stop the hate comments. As the Kokomi banner passed several months, things are starting to look up to her. She had a specific artifact just for her that brought her to light to the public in a good way. The Ocean Hue Clam is a very niche artifact made for her, which is one of the largest descriptions of the artifact the game has to offer. Not only that, but she was also given her own event with a free-to-play weapon. The more version patches that happen over time, the love from the developers she was receiving, including the Dendro update. Fast forward to this day, Kokomi is now one of the most used characters in endgame, filling the role as a healer and hydro application. Not long ago, her rerun banner is one of the best revenue performed, being top 10 of all time. She probably has the best redemption arc when it comes to a character, being the most hated to the most beloved. But despite all the hatred she received, it can never beat the outcry of Zhongli. Zhongli is the one and only character in the game that's been heavily adjusted to his kits due to the controversy from the community. Before his debut, Zhongli was advertised as a strong mighty god that could do many things. With providing shield and summoning a meteor from the sky, people were excited. Despite this, when people first used him when he first came out, many people felt like they fell into false advertising. The numbers from his kit were underwhelming as his meteor hit like a wet noodle, and his shield was breaking easily, which is his main appeal. Zhongli was the most hyped banner so far. Many pulled as soon as possible because Zhongli is one of the coolest characters in game and lore, with sick animations and great voice acting. But the maths don't lie and the honeymoon came crushing fast. Communities of all languages around the world united together to call for buff for Zhongli. The Chinese community believed that Zhongli was representing China, as Liu region is inspired by Chinese culture and that Zhongli being bad is simply a spit in the face. After weeks of outcry from forums and social media over the weakness of 5-star character Zhongli, Hoyoverse put out an image where Zhongli will receive buffs in version 1.3 and are working on it. This left people satisfied but questioning whether it will redeem his character, and speculating if they should put their pitchforks down. A week later, a statement showed that Zhongli would be receiving buffs to his whole kit. This changed everything as Zhongli will be able to do many things, like providing shield buffs, debuffs to enemies, and crazy buff burst damage, simply a new character. These changes allowed Zhongli to undeniably be the strongest Geo character in the game. The community became satisfied with the new Zhongli and called it a victory for them to avoid a lackluster Geo Archon. Zhongli is still being used to this day for majority of the content, including Spiral Mist, as his kit changes are that powerful.